In this video, I will be discussing how to use the cost approach valuation technique. In the cost approach, we essentially look at the cost to replace the item we are trying to value. This can be hard to estimate with very unique assets, like houses or horses. This is where understanding what is important to market participants becomes crucial. Consider a house again. I could buy an identical house to mine, but if it's located on a tiny lot at the side of the highway, it's going to be worth less than my house that sits on an acre away from major traffic noise. You know what they say about real estate. Location, location, location. Let's look at an example. In this example, we have McDowell Manufacturing Company, who in the past year acquired the White Tank Company, a manufacturer of large specialty tanks used in a variety of businesses. When I first started doing this example, I was picturing like military tanks, but it's like tanks that contain liquid. It's really not nearly as exciting as I had hoped. Anyways, WTC has an 8-year-old special purpose machine that welds tank components in a seamless manner. The machine has a 20-year life. In the application of purchase accounting, so again, there's that purchase accounting, which is what makes it so that we're using fair value on something we wouldn't otherwise use fair value on. MMC decides that since the special purpose machine is 8 years old, it will use the replacement cost method to estimate its value. Following are the facts related to the special purpose asset. So we have our cost basis, what it cost us to buy it. What it cost WTC to buy it. WTC's net book value, so that's net of accumulated depreciation since they purchased it. Calculated reproduction cost, so if we were going to have it custom made for us. Replacement cost, if we were going to buy the same type of machine but in its new form right now. Estimated liquidation value, if we were just going to sell it for scrap. Functional obsolescence. Functional obsolescence is reduced desirability due to outdated design features. So this could be, if you're thinking something like your iPhone, if you really want the facial recognition, you're not going to be as interested in buying an iPhone with the thumbprint recognition, right? So the functions have improved to the point where it makes the old item less desirable. So the one with the thumbprint is not as desirable as the one with facial recognition. And then we have economic obsolescence, which is a loss in value or usefulness caused by external factors. So the general economy out there, regulatory measures that might make it so that this is has more environmental implications or fees or something like that. Okay, so we are supposed to use the replacement cost method to determine the fair value of the machine. Now, my little thing down here kind of gives away where we're going with this, but we have some options of where to start. So we could start with our replacement cost to buy the same version or buy the newest version of the same machine, or we could start with our reproduction cost. In this case, we're going to start with our replacement cost. It's a little bit more conservative, and honestly, we're more likely to go just buy the new one than to have to build it. So if it was very, very customized, we would have to get a reproduction cost because that's the only way we'd be able to get a comparable value. But if it's not so specialized, then the replacement cost is probably a better place to start. So we're going to start with that. Now, this is as if we went out and bought the new iPhone. But remember, our iPhone, it's not the iPhone 10, it's the iPhone 6S. And so we need to figure out how we can use the iPhone 10 as a starting point to estimate the value of an iPhone 6S. So first of all, our phone is not brand new. It has some physical deterioration. So just wear and tear from having used it over time. Now, given the information that we have to try to figure out what that physical deterioration is. So how do we account for the fact that this thing is, I believe, 8 years old? So what we can do is we can use their estimate. They've been taking depreciation on this thing that's supposed to be estimating wear and tear, right? So we know that it's on their books for $100 million, and they have a book value of $55 million, which means they must have taken accumulated depreciation of $45 million over time. So that's how much they think that the value of this item has deteriorated through use. Okay, So now we need to think about other factors that might make our item less desirable than the one that we could go out and buy new. Well, that's where those obsolescence are going to come in. Because remember, we don't have all the features of this new one. This new one has some sort of bells and whistles. Maybe it has a touch screen, whereas ours doesn't. And so we're going to have some functional obsolescence. Ours is less desirable because it doesn't have the new functions. So functional obsolescence, we're estimating it at $10 million. And also, just general economic conditions have changed. So we're also going to take into account that economic obsolescence. That's $30 million. So we're going to take our replacement cost and we're going to subtract out all of these adjustments to get the value of the machine being $40 million. Now, you're probably looking at this and thinking, okay, well, how did she know to adjust for those things? Or how did she know to start with the replacement cost? I could have started with the reproduction cost. Yeah, it takes judgment. So what you're going to find in this chapter is there are no right answers. There are some wrong answers, but there aren't necessarily right answers. And the other thing you need to think about is, where did we make assumptions? We made assumptions all over the place. We made assumptions that the replacement cost was better than the reproduction cost. We made assumptions that their estimate of depreciation was a good estimate of physical wear and tear. Where did this number come from, the $10 million? They didn't tell us anything at all about where that number came from. That number is an estimate too. Same with our economic obsolescence. So all over these, we're going to have all sorts of assumptions that are going to make us less certain about what the correct answer is. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to try to do some sort of reasonableness tests. And we're going to try to figure out if we change this a little bit, how much does it impact our valuation? And so we'll get a taste of that in one of our future examples, where we're going to do a little bit of a sensitivity analysis. But for now, just keep in mind that where you see estimates, which numbers are we sure of, and which numbers are estimates that require judgment. This concludes our lecture on the cost approach. Don't forget to email